Good morning from Sacred Space at Titania's Realm. It's Sunday the 22nd of February 2026 and the time is 11:24 a.m. and it's currently 28 degrees Celsius, so a tiny bit cooler than it was yesterday, but still feels very hot. So now that I've got my sewing machine, I might cut this into an off the shoulder style because it's too hot to have things so up around my collar. I hate that, but it's a job for later on, I guess, when it cools down a bit. Anyway, I've been pottering. I've been listening to several videos all about Prince Andrew and the Epstein files, and getting more and more soaked in that darkness. So I thought that's enough of that. Time to do something positive and uplifting and joyous and sanguine, and maintain our equilibrium in these crazy dark times. So I thought I would continue on with reading part 2 of Dogs, Dormice and Disorder, which is chapter 1 of The Garden of the Gods. I still feel quite weary. I had another bad night. I worked out that the antibiotic cream, the Bactroban cream that I've been putting on my cyst on my back for the last 4 days is, I don't know how it's connected actually, because it's just an antibiotic, but anyway, it's caused my bladder to flare up the last 2 nights. It's been 3 nights really. It's been intense, so I'm a bit literally washed out. I had to pee a lot yesterday during the day as well as last night, 7 times. So it's just how I exist in the world. I reject all medications, and it just goes to show I'm right to reject them. If just a little tiny antibiotic cream can flare me up like that. It might not be the cause though, it might just be a unlucky coincidence. But my anxiety's been through the roof as well, actually since Tuesday or Wednesday. So it's just hard bloody yakka, as the Australians like to say. It's just laborious, and I push myself through and and some days are better than others, but it looks like I'm going to have a bit of a rough trot for a few more days, and then hopefully things will settle back down. So excuse me if I halfway through the story start channeling spirits, although that's usually just unexpected and a bit of an anomaly, or if I just drift away a bit. You know, as you know from watching my channel, I'm well aware when I'm drifting, and I'm usually able to calm myself back down. But anyway, I just worry about getting worse with my health, mental, physical and emotional, and it just pays to keep a finger or a thumb on the pulse and just keep an eye on things. But it's actually a beautiful morning this morning. I should really have the birdie boys outside. We should be outside, but it's humid and a bit uncomfortable, so we'll stay in and I'll do what I did yesterday. I took the birds outside for about 2.5 hours in the late afternoon till evening, and then brought them in, and they were so happy. But yeah, I waited for it to cool down so that it was actually pleasurable for them to be outside. Otherwise, what's the point if you're just sitting out there suffering in the heat? It's not nice for the birds either. Little Bo did a repeat performance of the night before and flew all over this room last night, and again I had trouble catching him and getting him to go back in his cage, so I don't know what that's about. He wants to fly at night time and be wild. Don't you, Little Bo? I don't know what the cause of that is. Maybe it's breeding season or something, but you wouldn't think the end of summer is breeding season. But anyway, he was very gleefully flying everywhere, sitting up high at the highest parts of the room on top of things, up near the ceiling, laughing at me because he knew I couldn't get near him. So I ended up using one of my walking staffs I made to chase him down from the greater heights. But he was determined. He flew everywhere, and in a way it's good for him to fly. I'm not opposed to him flying. It's just the time frames he's choosing to do it, and like his cage door is open all day for him and Kermie to go in and out, and they just sit there all day, and then he gets the urge to fly on sunset. It's a bit unusual, but anyway, it makes sense to his little bird brain. See, Kermie's chewing on the swing that they refuse to utilise, so I put it in their cage, but if he's chewing on it, then it means they're playing with it and getting used to it, so that's a positive. So on that note, we'll carry on with the story, part 2 of Dogs, Dormice and Disorder. It was a result of one of my many forays on donkey back that we became infested by dogs. We had been up in the hills where I had been endeavouring to catch some agamas on the glittering gypsum cliffs. We returned towards evening when the shadows lay everywhere, charcoal black, and everything was bathed in the slanting, soft, golden light of the sinking sun. We were hot and tired, hungry and thirsty, for we had long since eaten and drunk everything that we had brought with us. The last vineyard we had passed had only yielded some bunches of very black wine grapes, whose sharp vinegariness had made the dogs curl back their lips and screw up their eyes, and had left me feeling hungrier and thirstier than ever. I wonder why I didn't carry a bottle of water with him. It's a bit odd, isn't it? I mean, nowadays everyone carries bottles of water everywhere they go, people of Earth. Most Queenslanders do because of the dreadful heat here. Anyway, I decided that as leader of the expedition, it was up to me to provide sustenance for the rest of the crew. I reined in and thought about the problem. We were equidistant between 3 sources of food. There was the shepherd, old Yanni, who would, I knew, give us cheese and bread, but his wife would probably be still in the fields, and Yanni himself might not have returned from grazing his goat flock. There was Agathi, who lived alone in a tiny tumble-down cottage. But she was so poor that I felt guilty at accepting anything from her, and, in fact, always made a point of sharing my food with her when I was around that way. Finally, there was sweet and gentle Mama Condos, a widow of some 80 summers, who lived with her 3 unmarried, and as far as I could see, unmarriageable daughters on an untidy but prosperous farm in a valley to the south. They were quite well off by peasant standards, owning, apart from 5 or 6 acres of olives and agricultural land, 2 donkeys, 4 sheep, and a cow. They were what one might call the landed gentry of the area, and so I decided that the honour of revictualling my expedition would fall to them. The 3 inordinately fat, ill-favoured but good-natured girls had just returned from working in the fields and were gathered round the small well, bright and shrill as parrots, washing their fat, hairy, brown legs. She must have had them late in life if she was in the 80s and they're still girls. It's a bit odd. Mama Condos herself, like a diminutive clockwork toy, was trotting to and fro, scattering maize for the squawking, tussled flock of chickens. There was nothing straight about Mama Condos. Her diminutive body was bent like a sickle blade. Her legs were bowed with years of carrying heavy loads on her head. Her arms and hands prematurely bent from picking things up. Even her upper and lower lips curved inwards over her toothless gums, and her snow-white dandelion seed eyebrows curved over her black eyes, blue-rimmed, which in their turn were guarded on each side by a fence of curved wrinkles in a skin as delicate as a baby mushroom's. The daughters, on seeing me, gave shrill cries of joy and gathered round me like benign shire horses, clasping me to their mammoth bosoms and kissing me, exuding affection, sweat and garlic in equal quantities. Mama Condos, a small, bent David among these aromatic Goliaths, bet them aside, shouting shrilly, "Give him to me! Give him to me, my golden one, my heart, my love! Give him to me!" She clasped me to her and covered my face with bruising kisses, for her gums were as hard as a tortoise's mouth. At length, after I had been thoroughly kissed and patted and pinched all over to make sure I was real, I was allowed to sit down and to offer some explanations as to why I had deserted them for so long. Did I not realize that it was a whole week since I had visited them? How could my love be so cruel, so tardy, so ephemeral? Still, since I was here at last. Would I like some food? I said yes, I would love some, and some for Sally as well. The dogs, more ill-mannered, had helped themselves. Whittle and Puke had torn sweet white grapes off the vine that trailed over part of the house, and were gulping them down greedily. while Roger, who appeared to be more thirsty than hungry, had gone beneath the fig and almond trees and had disemboweled a watermelon. He was laying with his nose stuck into its cool pink interior, his eyes closed in ecstasy, sucking the sweet, icy juice through his teeth. Immediately, Sally was given 3 cobs of ripe corn to chew on and a bucket of water to slake her thirst, while I was presented with a mammoth sweet potato, its skin black and deliciously charcoaly from the fire, its sweet flesh beautifully soggy, a bowl of almonds, some figs. What did I do with those figs? I didn't eat my figs. I spent a lot of money on them and I didn't bloody eat them. I've had 2. The 3rd one I shared with the birds. I better get on to that, they'll go rotten, by the gods. I buy fruit and veg and I forget to eat it. Always been like that. It's nuts. But anyway, 2 enormous peaches, a hunk of yellow bread, olive oil and garlic. Once I had engulfed this provender and thus taken the edge off my hunger, I could concentrate on exchanging gossip. Peppy had fallen out of an olive tree and broken his arm, silly boy. Leonora was going to have another baby to replace the one that died. Yanni, no, not that Yanni, the Yanni over on the other side of the hill, had quarrelled with Taki over the price of a donkey, and Taki had got so angry he had fired his shotgun at the side of Yanni's house. Only it had been a very dark night, and Taki was drunk, and it had turned out to be Spiro's house, so now none of them were speaking. For some time we discussed the foibles and dissected the characters of our fellow men with great relish, and then I noticed that Lulu was missing from the scene. Lulu was Mama Condos's dog, a lean and long-legged bitch with huge, soulful eyes and long, floppy ears like a spaniel. Like all peasant dogs, she was gaunt and scabby, her ribs sticking out like the strings of a harp. But she was an endearing creature, and I was fond of her. Normally she was one of the first to greet me, but now she was nowhere to be seen. Had anything happened to her, I asked. Puppies, said Mama Condos. Po, 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 po. 11. Would you believe it? On that note, I'm going to go and get my figs. I'm pretty sure I didn't eat them. I'll be back in one moment. Hello, little pretty boys. Hello, little baby boys. Some coconut for you. You can break it off. gorgeous boys. It's for you. Yes. Sorry it took so long. I had trouble prying the coconut out of its shell. It started to dry out and it's got a bit difficult to manoeuvre. Look how many figs I've got left. I haven't been eating them. Oh well. That one feels quite hard. Made quite a loud clunk, didn't it? It's probably frozen. They all gone frozen in the bloody fridge. Yes, that's what's gone wrong. So they'll have lost all their lovely flavour. You know, they were quite expensive. I bought them and I hesitated because they're expensive. And I thought, oh well, it'll be good for me to have something fresh and healthy. And then I forget about the silly cow. Honestly, I'm my own worst enemy sometimes. Bon appetit. Horrible. That one's partially off and frozen and horrible. I should have devoured them in one go like I normally do when I get things. We'll try this one. Better, but not great either. Well, I have to make the best of a bad situation. I waste so much food, it's quite astonishing actually. And then I go into panic mode and worry about money constantly. I was all day yesterday worrying about money because my rego goes out on the 28th, so what's that, 6 days from now, and it's like $170 and it's a big chunk of my pension sucked out, and I don't have a lot of money left, so I've been worrying about that, but it's covered, but I just can't spend anything at all for 6 days, and then I have to wait another few more days till the 3rd of March till my next payday. And so I go into panic mode and start sweating and getting all anxious and fraught. And you know what? I've got plenty of food here. I don't have a lot of meat. I've got some beef stir fry in the freezer, which is not going to last me for more than a few days. And I have to go out and buy noodles to cook it with and some coconut cream. But I've got plenty of rice and pasta. I've got other things I can go on, but you know, it's just unnecessary worry really. But I've been living like this for 31 years, so it grinds my gears every now and then. It really does. But anyway, I won't worry. I've got coconut and frozen, strangely tasting figs. There's plenty of figs there. Abundance, people of earth. Swings and roundabouts. Right, 11 puppies. Would you believe it? That is a lot of puppies. My goodness. I'm hungry and I'm tired and I'm drifting. I know I'm drifting. The mama tea will come back to you forthwith. Here we go, babies. Just got to clear that bit of coconut or I'll choke on it. It doesn't have much flavour either. Perhaps I've lost my sense of taste. Sometimes it's a bit like that when I don't feel well. I noticed I wasn't very hungry yesterday. I struggled to get through the fish and chips on Wednesday. So, yeah, maybe I'm not well. I don't feel too bad though, apart from the chronic fatigue, but probably wrung out from that bloody bladder. It's a nuisance. It's a nuisance, people of Earth. Anyway, on we go. I've survived many things, including that awful misbehaved bladder that's been artificially interfered with to keep me alive, and it really is like a constant autoimmune dis-ease, but I just push it away and push it away, and I'm grateful that I'm continent, because it could be worse. I could have ended up incontinent and then I would have killed myself. Trust me on that one, people of Earth. So I can be grateful for small mercies, but it does have a deleterious effect on me. When it spirals under quite severely. Anyway, here we go. They had tied Lulu up to an olive tree near the house when the birth had become imminent, and she had crawled into the depths of the tree trunk to have her young. Oh, bless. After she had greeted me with enthusiasm, she watched with interest as I crawled into the olive tree on hands and knees and extracted the puppies to look at. As always, I was amazed at such scrawny, half-starved mothers. I think that's really cruel to starve your animals. All my animals, well, they're not fat, but they're well fed. Although Bobo was getting a little bit fat towards the end of it, but he was swelling because he had a splenal mass. My poor little Beauregard, my baby, my angel, my sweetheart, my darling. Oh, it's raining. Must be some kind of shower, because it didn't look like it was going to rain. Got my bloody dry towels out there in the rain now. Oh well, they'll dry again. It's hot. Right, where were we? Ah, yes. As always, I was amazed that such scrawny, half-starved mothers could produce such plump, powerful puppies with squashed, belligerent faces and loud seagull voices. They were, as usual, in a wide variety of colours: black and white, white and tan, silver and bluish grey, all black and all white. Any litter of Corfu puppies displays such a wide variety of colour schemes that to settle the question of paternity is virtually impossible. I sat with the mewling patchwork of puppies in my lap and told Lulu how clever she is. She wagged her tail furiously. Clever, huh? Said Mama Condos sourly. 11 puppies isn't clever, it's wanton. We shall have to get rid of all but one. Oh, bless. I was well aware that Lulu could not possibly be allowed to keep her full complement of puppies, and in fact she was lucky that they were going to leave her one. I felt it might be of use. I said that I felt sure that my mother would not only, the smell from the rain just wafted through. Oh, that's actually lovely. Might quell some of the humidity for a little while. I said that I felt sure that my mother would not only be delighted at the thought of having a puppy. How many dogs does he need, this child? My goodness. He's already got 3. I'm a bit like that with animals though, you know. I'm a bit of an animal collector. I used to be anyway, when I could afford it. Sometimes when I couldn't afford it too, as the case may be. I'm never one to turn a stray animal away. I can't bear it, it breaks my heart. Anyway. My daughter Crystal even offered me one time. It didn't come to fruition because Jared talked sense into both of us, but she even offered me a Shetland pony, and I was terribly excited about the idea of having a Shetland pony in my backyard until Jared went into absolute paroxysms of horror and said, "You can't possibly have a Shetland pony in your backyard." I said, "Why?" He said, "He's a stallion. He'll jump the fences and he'll bite you and he'll be nothing but a nuisance." I was devastated. And then Crystal said to me, the wisest word that was ever said to me in all my life that really resonated. She said, "Don't worry, Mummy. All the wild things find their way back to you eventually." And I laughed and laughed. It's a bit like that. The Mama T has a great love for wild things, wild ones. Well, all my wild ones are gone now. It's just me and the birdie boys being all thick and domesticated, except for Beau at sunset. He's got sundowners. All twitter-pated at sunset, aren't you, little boy? He's sleeping now. Give it a few hours. Anarchy and chaos. So here we are. I felt sure that my mother would not only be delighted at the thought of having a puppy, but would be overwhelmed with gratitude to the Kondos family and Lulu for providing her with one. I therefore, after much thought, chose the one I liked best, a slug, fat, screaming little male who was black, white and grey, with bright corn-coloured eyebrows and feet. I wouldn't have chosen a screaming male if I were you. I come from a family of screaming mimes, so that gets a bit wearing on the nerves after a while. It truly does. Don't laugh, it's not funny. I asked them to save this one for me until he was old enough to leave Lulu. In the meantime, I would apprise Mother of the exciting fact that we had acquired another dog, which would bring our complement up to 5. I thought he only had 4 dogs. Now there's 5. Oh yes, I forgot about the Dandy Dinmont. That's a lot of dogs, people of Earth. As much as I love dogs, 5 is a lot. And then there was 6 or 7 or 8. God, when does it end? A nice round figure, I considered. To my astonishment, Mother was not a bit pleased with the suggested increase in our dog tribe. "No, dear," she said firmly. "We are not having another dog. 4 is quite enough. And what with your owls and everything, it's costing a fortune in meat anyway. Exactly. I don't know how she afforded all that with feeding such a big family and then all the pets. Much as I love my pets, you've got to draw the line somewhere. I'm nearly due to buy another sack of wild bird seed, which was probably a foolish thing that I started, but oh, they enjoy it so much. I don't begrudge 1 penny of it. The goddess, as always, will provide. The goddess, being the Mama T, has to carefully juggle her budget. Carefully juggle her budget. Right. No, I'm afraid another dog is out of the question. In vain, I argued that the puppy would be killed if we did not intervene. Mother remained firm. There was only one thing to do. I had noticed in the past that Mother, faced with a hypothetical question like, "Would you like a nestful of baby redstarts?" would say no, firmly and automatically. Faced, however, with a nestful of baby birds, she would inevitably waver and then say yes. Tender-hearted woman like the Tanya. I got a story about that, the tender-hearted manipulations that went on. So, yes, it's a segue. It's going to be a fairly long segue, so bear with me. So we were living at that time in the house in Hague Road, Loganlea. No, I'm wrong. Waterford West. In Kaiser Court, Waterford West, we were living. And my girls, my 2 daughters, had befriended the 2 little girls and the little boy that lived down the road, Ashley, Jamie and Jake, that I mentioned in a video recently, talking about how their dad used to drive us down to Kura Beach, which is about 1.5 hours drive away, and or down to Surfers Paradise, and was very kind to me, their dad, actually, at a time when I was destitute and frightened how I was going to keep feeding my children. It's awful, isn't it, that I was put through all of that by my evil mother and my ex-husband, and by trauma and by poverty, and it was just a huge fucking epic mess. Anyway, not a lot has changed, except now I only have to provide for myself and the birdie boys, and occasionally I feed the fish too, and the wild birds. I feed the wild birds. But anyway, but we'd befriended this family. Karen was their mother. She passed away, can't remember, must be about 6 or 8 years ago now. Anyway, that was awful. Cancer. So where was I? Oh yes, so so her children were in and out of my house, and my children were in and out of their house, which is fine. I had a similar childhood. I liked that. I liked having the children around, and we would put on Spice Girls, and the kids would all dance, and they were so happy. Anyway, so one day Ashley, the elder of Karen's 3 children, arrives with Jamie and Jake and this very beautiful black Labrador. And she said, "Oh, Tanya," she said, "I hope you don't mind, but," she said, "I've been given this dog." Little liar that she was, a little minx. And she, and she says, "But you know, Mum can't look after it at the moment. And I thought it was a bit strange, but her mother was working all the time. She worked in a very high up position in government, actually. And so I thought, oh, well, it's because she's stressed and busy, and she was struggling with health issues then. Not cancer, but she had some kind of, she actually had chronic fatigue, but diagnosed chronic fatigue. There's another name for it when it's been diagnosed. Starts with a C. Can't remember what it was called now. But anyway, it was a very serious illness that she did struggle with. And I'd go there and she'd be pale and weak and lying down. I sort of felt for her because I was always in the same kind of state, really. But my chronic fatigue was never officially diagnosed. Because I was poor, my doctors wouldn't fucking follow through with a lot of things. I have a form of systemic abuse. But anyway, we get away from that horror. And I was fatigued also because I was existing on heavy psych meds and, you know, weak all the time and feeling pretty much ill all the time. But I was on the single mother's pension, so I didn't have to go out to work, so I got to rest when I wanted to, which, believe me, made the difference between life and death, quite frankly. I mean, in a way, I'm not surprised Karen died relatively young of cancer, because she was working like a dog all the time when she was actually physically unwell. So there is that. Anyway, and she was a very peaceful, easygoing, placid woman, complete opposite of me. And she was very spiritual too. She was very kind to me. She went weird with me around the time she married her last husband, which was awful because we'd been, you know, friends for a long time, and I actually really liked and respected her. But anyway, so at this point in time, it must have been 1998. We were still living in Waterford West because we moved out in 1999, eventually escaped those maniacs behind us and moved to Logan Lee. Anyway, so as she turns up with this beautiful young Labrador dog, and he just looked at me with his big soulful eyes as dogs do, and she asked if I would look after him for a few days. And I said, oh, I don't see why not. I said, Mummy needs help looking after him, I'm happy with that. Can we come and play with him in the afternoons after school? I said, I don't see why not, he's your dog. And I thought it was a bit odd, but, you know, I didn't worry too much about it. And anyway, I forgot what we named that dog. He was a lovely dog, and I was happy to have him, a companionship. Anyway, 3 days go by and they didn't reclaim this dog. So I thought, oh well, Karen's just busy or what have you. I think I had him for about 2 weeks actually. And eventually I thought, and Ashley was bringing tins of food to feed him, so I was destitute, and she was bringing, they were supplying the food, right? So that's really not a bad arrangement, you know, doesn't affect me. I'm not out of pocket feeding this animal. And as I say, it was a lovely animal, lovely dog. Anyway, I went over to visit Karen and I said, oh, you know, I'm still looking after the dog for you. She said, what? And I went, yeah, the Labrador. She said, I thought it was your dog. I've been looking after him for you, because we would just swap between us. I said, what do you mean you've been looking after him for me? Ashley asked me to look after him for you because you're tired and you're working all the time. And then we just looked at each other. She said, we've been conned. So she calls the children in, all 5 of them, my 2 and her 3, and she says to them, tell me again how it is that you acquired this dog. And Ashley looks all guilty. She says, oh yeah, it's Tanya's dog. And Karen says, Tanya just told me that she thought it was my dog. So since it's neither Tanya's dog nor my dog, whose dog is it? And Ashley, she would have been about 12 or 13 at the time, says, oh, well, Mum, we're walking around the neighbourhood and we saw him and he just looks so lonely and he's just sitting there with his beautiful big eyes. So we took him, and we knew that you wouldn't be happy, so we decided to say that it was Tanya's dog, and Tanya loves dogs and animals, so we knew she wouldn't mind. Good old Tanya. And so she said, it's funny when you think about it. So she said, so we told Tanya it was your dog, and we told you it was Tanya's dog, because that way we could keep him for, much longer, and by then, Mummy, you'd fall in love with him, and Tanya would fall in love with him, and then we could keep him. I said, you little minxes. I said, as much as I love animals, and I would happily have kept him, number one, you simply can't just steal someone's dog out of their front yard just because it looked at you and it's cute. She said, well, no one's come looking for him. I said, but that's beside the point. And someone must be dreadfully upset that their dog's gone missing. Oh, she said, oh, we didn't think about that. I said, of course you didn't. It was a very greedy thing to do, steal someone's dog. No, we didn't steal him. We saved him. He was lonely in his front yard. There was nobody ever around. He loves us. Go on, Tanya. You love him, don't you? I said I did indeed love him, but I can't be responsible for a dog that's been taken from someone else's property. And Karen said, they already had a little sweet little dog, a little chihuahua. She said, I'm not taking on any more dogs either. I said, you'll have to take him back to his owners. I don't even know what happened, and I think they took him to the RSPCA. And then I was a bit upset because I would rather have kept him than send him to the RSPCA. But, it was just the fact that it was such a lie and a manipulation. If Ashley were ever to watch my videos, don't worry, Ashley. The Mama T still loves you. But you were a lateral thinker and an out-of-the-box organizer and a bit of a manipulator as a child. But I'll tell you what she did do. She would get her dad to buy us all dinner when she knew we were destitute. So that child, who was only still a young teenager at the time, put food in my mouth and my daughter's mouths. So no, I'm not actually all that angry about the dog, Ashley. By the gods though, that kid could wrangle a situation on a dime. She was very, very clever little girl, and very heartfelt and sincere. And anyway, blessed be, back to the story. Obviously, there was only one thing to be done, and that was to show her the puppy. I was confident that she would never be able to resist his golden eyebrows and socks. I sent a message down to the Condises asking if I could borrow the puppy to show Mother, and one of the fat daughters obligingly brought it up the next day. But when I unwrapped it from the cloth in which she had brought it, I found to my annoyance that Mama Condos had sent the wrong puppy. I explained this to the daughter, who said that she could do nothing about it, as she was on her way to the village. It's very important to get the puppy of your dreams, people of Earth. Got a story about that, but it's too depressing. I can't go there now. People being vicious when I'd just had my gallbladder taken out and was in recovery and was very, very thick and ill. No, it was before that. It was after I had the suicide attempt. People piling on, being savage. Solomon's baby over a puppy. I cursed that woman to her dying day. What she put me through, knowing that I was ill and vulnerable at the time. Evil it was. Anyway, after that we got a little Beauregard. I had 7 years of joy with him. So things happen the way they happen, but by the gods, there are some rotten evil people in this world. Absolutely putrid human beings, not worth the shit out of Beauregard's asshole. Let's just put it undelicately how it is. Caused me weeks and weeks of trauma, that woman. Foul. And she knew that I'd just recovered from a serious event, so to do that was even more foul. Anyway, I had better go and see her mother. She added that I had better make haste, as Mama Condos had mentioned that she was intending to destroy the puppies that morning. Oh, that's awful. That's also awful. It's like, if you don't want puppies, get your bloody dogs desexed. Don't kill all the animals. It's not their fault. You were an irresponsible pet owner, by all the gods. Hastily, I mounted Sally and galloped through the olive groves. When I reached the farm, I found Mama Condos sitting in the sun, stringing garlic heads together into white, knobbly plaits, while around her the chickens scratched and purred contentedly. After she had embraced me, asked after the health of myself and the family, and given me a plate of green figs, I produced the puppy and explained my errand. "The wrong one," she exclaimed, peering at the yelling puppy and prodding it with her forefinger. "The wrong one? How stupid of me! Po, 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 po! I quite thought it was the one with white eyebrows you wanted." Had she, I inquired anxiously, destroyed the rest of the puppies? "Oh yes," she said absently, still staring at the puppy. "Yes, this morning, early." "Well then," I said resignedly, since I could not have the one I had set my heart on, I had better have the one she had saved. "No, I think I can get you the one you want," she said, getting to her feet and fetching a broad-bladed hoe. How, I wondered, could she get me my puppy if she had destroyed them? Perhaps she was going to retrieve the corpse for me. I had no desire for that. I was just going to say so when Mama Condos, mumbling to herself, trotted off to a field near the house, where the stalks of the first crop of maize stood yellow and brittle in the hot sun-cracked ground. Here she cast about for a moment, and then started to dig. With the second sweep of the hoe, she dug up 3 screaming puppies, their legs paddling frantically, ears, eyes, and pink mouths choked with earth. Oh, that's vile. Buried them alive. That's vile. I was paralyzed with horror. I would be too. I think I would have attacked her. She checked the puppies she had dug up, found they were not the one that I wanted, threw them to one side and recommenced digging. It was only then that the full realization of what Mama Condos had done swept over me. I felt as though a great scarlet bubble of hate burst in my chest, and tears of rage poured down my cheeks. From my not uncomprehensive knowledge of Greek insults, I dragged up the worst in my vocabulary. Yelling these at Mama Condos, I pushed her out of the way so hard that she sat down suddenly, bewildered, among the corn stalks. Still calling down the curses of every saint and deity I could think of, I seized the hoe and rapidly but carefully dug up the rest of the gasping puppies. Mama Condos was too astonished by my sudden change from calm to rage to say anything. She just sat there, open-mouthed. I stuffed the puppies unceremoniously into my shirt, collected Lulu and the pup that had been left to her, and rode off on Sally, shouting curses over my shoulder at Mama Condos, who had now got to her feet and was running after me shouting, "But Golden One, what's the matter? Why are you crying? You have all the puppies. What's the matter?" I burst into the house, hot, tear-stained, covered with mud, my shirt bulging with puppies, Lulu trotting at my heels, delighted with the sudden and unexpected outing for herself and her offspring. Mother was, as usual, embedded in the kitchen, making various delicacies for Margot, who had been away touring the mainland of Greece to recover from yet another unfortunate affair of the heart. Wish I could afford to do that. Tour somewhere marvellous to get over the fucking epic bastardry. Don't even have puppies to comfort me. Oh, but I was given the birdies to comfort me. Let's look at the beautiful birdies. You're real men, Kermie and Bo. Real little men in the form of feathery ones. Sitting on your perch like handsome boys. Oh, bless. Mother was, as usual, embedded in the kitchen making various delicacies for Margot, who had been away. I read that, by the gods. Sorry, drifting. Mother listened to my incoherent and indignant account of the puppy's premature burial and was duly shocked. "Really?" she exclaimed indignantly. "These peasants! I can't understand how they can be so cruel. Burying them alive! I never heard of such a barbarous thing. Excuse me. You did quite right to save them, dear. Where are they? I ripped open my shirt as though committing harakiri. I thought it was the other way around. Harakiri? Well, anyway, you know what they mean. We know what it means, don't we? Harakiri. When you disembowel yourself as a mark of honour rather than die at the hands of an enemy. Japanese traditions. Also a bit extreme if you ask me, but anyway, not for me to judge other people's cultural motifs. Whether I agree with them or disagree with them is of no consequence. But harming innocent animals, fuck you. And I'm not talking about, well, our food and food we are fed are often tortured as well, which is not okay. Really not okay. Anyway, I'm going to spiral under if I think about all of that. I ripped open my shirt as though committing harakiri, and a cascade of wriggling puppies fell out onto the kitchen table, where they started to grope their way blindly about, squeaking. He really needs to get them some water. I mean, they've been bloody half suffocated and buried alive. Does nobody have common sense anymore? He saved them, but for what end? By the gods. Water, people. Water. Jerry dear, not on the table where I'm rolling pastry, said Mother. Really? You children? Yes, well, even if it's clean mud, we don't want it in the pies. Get a basket. I got a basket and we put the puppies into it. Mother peered at them. Poor little things, she said. There do seem to be an awful lot of them. How many? 11? Well, I don't know what we'll do with them. We can't have 11 dogs with the ones we've got. I said hastily that I had got it all worked out. As soon as the puppies were old enough, we would find homes for them. I added that Margot, who would be home by then, could help me. It would be an occupation for her and keep her mind off sex. One can only hope. Jesus. Jerry dear, said Mother, aghast. Don't say things like that. Whoever told you that? I explained that Larry had said that she needed her mind taken off sex, and so I thought that the puppy's arrival would achieve this happy result. Well, you mustn't talk like that, said Mother. Larry's got no business to say things like that. Margot's just a bit emotional, that's all. Sex has nothing to do with it. That's something quite different. Whatever would people think if they heard you? Now go and put the puppies somewhere safe. So I took the puppies to a convenient olive tree near the veranda, tied Lulu to it, and cleaned the puppies with a damp cloth. Still hasn't bloody given them a drink of water though, has he? Starting to grind my gears. Lulu, deciding that baskets were very effete places in which to bring up puppies, immediately excavated a burrow between the friendly roots of the tree and carefully transferred her puppies to it one by one. To his annoyance, I spent more time cleaning up my special puppy than the others and tried to think of a name for him. Finally, I decided to call him Lazarus. Laz for short. I placed him carefully with his brothers and sisters and went to change my mud and urine-stained shirt. I arrived at the lunch table in time to hear Mother telling Leslie and Larry about the puppies. "It's extraordinary," said Leslie. "I don't think they mean to be cruel. They just don't think. Look at the way they shove wounded birds into their game bags." "So what happened? Did Jerry drown the puppies?" "No, he did not," said Mother indignantly. "He brought them here, of course." "Dear God," said Larry, "not more dogs. We've got 4 already." "They're only puppies," said Mother. "Poor little things." "How many are there?" asked Leslie. 11, said Mother reluctantly. Larry put down his knife and fork and stared at her. 11, he repeated. 11? 11 puppies? You must be mad." "I keep telling you they're only puppies, tiny little things," said Mother, flustered. "And Lulu's very good with them." "Who the hell's Lulu?" asked Larry. "Their mother. She's a dear," said Mother. "So that's 12 bloody dogs." "Well, yes, I suppose it is," said Mother. "I hadn't really counted." "That's the trouble round here," snapped Larry. "Nobody counts, and before you know where you are, you're knee-deep in animals. It's like the bloody creation all over again, only worse. 1 owl turns into a battalion before you know where you are. Sex-mad pigeons defying Marie Stopes in every room of the house. The place is so full of birds it's like a bloody poulterer's shop, to say nothing of snakes and toads, and enough small fry to keep Macbeth's witches in provender for years. And on top of all of that, you go and get 12 more dogs? It's a perfect example of the streak of lunacy that runs in this family." "Nonsense, Larry. You do exaggerate," said Mother. "Such a lot of fuss over a few puppies." "You call 11 puppies a few? The place will look like the Greek branch of Kraft's dog show, and they'll probably all turn out to be bitches and come into season simultaneously. Life will deteriorate into one long canine sexual orgy." "Oh yes," said Mother, changing the subject. "You're not to go around saying Margot's sex mad. People will get the wrong idea." "Well, she is," said Larry. "I see no reason to cover up the truth." "You know perfectly well what I mean," said Mother firmly. "I won't have you saying things like that. Margot's just romantic. There's a lot of difference." "Well, all I can say is," said Larry, "when all those bitches you've brought into the house come into season together, Margot's going to have a lot of competition." "Now, Larry, that's quite enough," said Mother. "Anyway, I don't think we ought to discuss sex at lunch." A few days after this, Margot returned from her travels, bronzed and well, and with her heart apparently healed. As my mother used to say, the best way to get over one man is to get under another. I never subscribed to that philosophy. I find it tawdry, obscene and uncouth. But apparently it works for some people. Just saying. She talked incessantly about her trip and gave us graphic thumbnail pictures of the people we had met, inevitably ending with, "And so I told them if they came to Corfu to come and see us." "I do hope you didn't invite everyone you met, Margot dear," said Mother, slightly alarmed. But only slightly. You understand? "Oh, of course not, Mother," said Margot impatiently, having just told us about a handsome Greek sailor and his 8 brothers to whom she had issued this lavish invitation. "I only asked the interesting ones. I would have thought you'd be glad to have some interesting people around." "I get enough interesting people that Larry invites, thank you," said Mother acidly, "without you starting." "This trip has opened my eyes," concluded Margot dramatically. "I've realised that you're all simply stagnating here. You've become narrow-minded and insulated." "I don't see that objecting to unexpected guests as being narrow-minded, dear," said Mother. "After all, I'm the one that has to do the cooking." "But they're not unexpected," explained Margot haughtily. "I invited them." "Well, yes," said Mother, obviously feeling that she was not making much headway with this argument. "I suppose if they write and let us know they're coming, we can manage." "Of course they'll let us know," said Margot coldly. "They're my friends. They wouldn't be so ill-mannered as not to let us know." As it happened, she was wrong. I returned to the villa after a very pleasant afternoon spent drifting up the coast in my boat looking for seals and bursting, sun-glowing and hungry, into the drawing room in search of tea and the mammoth chocolate cake I knew Mother had made. I came upon a sight so curious that I stopped in the doorway, my mouth open in amazement, while the dogs, clustered round my legs, started to bristle and growl with astonishment. Mother was seated on the floor, perched uncomfortably on a cushion, gingerly holding in one hand a piece of rope to which was attached a small, black and excessively high-spirited ram. Sitting around Mother, cross-legged on cushions, were a fierce-looking old man in a tabouche and 3 heavily veiled women. Also ranged on the floor were lemonade, tea and plates of biscuits and sandwiches, and the chocolate cake. As I entered the room, the old man had leaned forward, drawn a huge, heavily ornate dagger from his sash, and cut himself a large hunk of cake, which he stuffed into his mouth with every evidence of satisfaction. It looked rather like a scene out of the Arabian Nights. Mother cast me an anguished look. "Thank goodness you've come, dear," she said, struggling with the ram who had gambolled into her lap by mistake. "These people don't speak English." I inquired who they were. "I don't know," said Mother desperately. "They just appeared when I was making tea. They've been here for hours. I can't understand a word they say. They insisted on sitting on the floor. I think they're friends of Margot's. Of course, they may be friends of Larry's, but they don't look highbrow enough." I tried tentatively, talking in Greek to the old man, and he leaped to his feet, delighted that someone understood him. It should be leapt to his feet. He had a swooping eagle nose, an immense white moustache like a frosty sheaf of corn, and black eyes that seemed to snap and crackle with his mood. He was wearing a white tunic with a red sash in which his dagger reposed, enormous baggy pants, long white cotton socks, and red upturned cherookias with immense pom-poms on the toes. I love those kind of shoes. They're very cool. Of course, no one would wear them in Brisbane, Australia, but I do love them. "So I was the adorable Signorina's brother, was I?" he roared excitedly, bits of chocolate cake trembling on his moustache as he talked. "What an honour to meet me." He clasped me to him and kissed me so fervently that the dogs, fearing for my life, all started barking. The ram, faced with 4 vociferous dogs, panicked. It ran round and round Mother, twisting the rope around her. Then, at a particularly snarling bark from Roger, it uttered a frantic bleat and fled towards the French windows and safety, pulling Mother onto her back in a welter of spilled lemonade and chocolate cake. Things became confused. Roger, under the impression that the old Turk was attacking both myself and Mother, launched an assault on the Turk's cherookias and got a firm grip on one of the pom-poms. The old boy aimed a kick at Roger with his free foot and promptly fell down. The 3 women were sitting absolutely still, cross-legged on their cushions, screaming loudly behind their yashmaks. Mother's dog, Dodo, who had long ago decided that anything in the nature of a rough house was acutely distressing to a dandy Dinmont of her lineage, sat soulfully in a corner and howled. The old Turk, who was surprisingly lithe for his age, had drawn his dagger and was making wild but ineffectual swipes at Roger, who was darting from pom-pom to pom-pom, growling savagely, evading the blade with ease. Waddle and Puke were trying to round up the ram, and Mother, desperately unravelling herself, was shouting incoherent instructions to me. "Get the lamb! Jerry, get the lamb! They'll kill it!" she squeaked, covered with lemonade and bits of chocolate cake. "Black son of the devil, illegitimate offspring of a witch! My shoes! Leave my shoes! I will kill you, destroy you!" panted the old Turk, slashing away at Roger. "Aye! Aye! Aye! His shoes! His shoes!" screamed the women in a chorus, immobile on their cushions. Well, we do love our shoes, don't we, people of Earth? See also yesterday's video. Bit of a theme there. With difficulty avoiding a stab wound myself, I managed to tear the ravening Roger off the old Turk's pom-poms and get him and Whittle and Puke out onto the veranda. Then I opened the sliding doors and shut the lamb in the dining room as a temporary measure while I soothed the old Turk's wounded feelings. Mother, smiling nervously and nodding vigorously at everything I said, although she did not understand it, was making an attempt to clean herself up, but this was rather, ineffectual, as the chocolate cake had been one of her larger and more glutinous creations, oozing cream, and she had put her elbow into the exact centre of it as she fell backwards. Oh, what a shame! What a waste of such a perfect cake! I would have been livid. At length I managed to soothe the old man, and while Mother went up to change her dress, I dished out brandy to the Turk and his 3 wives. My helpings were liberal, so by the time Mother came back, faint hiccups were coming from behind at least one of the veils, and the Turk's nose had turned fiery red. Your sister is, how shall I tell you, magical, God-given. Never have I seen a girl like her, he said, holding out his glass eagerly. I, who as you see have 3 wives, I have never seen a girl like your sister. What's he saying? Asked Mother, eyeing his dagger nervously. I repeated what the Turk had said. Disgusting, old man, said Mother. Really, Margot should be more careful. The Turk drained his glass and held it out again, beaming convivially at us. Your maid here, he said, jerking a thumb at Mother. She is a little bit soft, huh? She doesn't speak Greek? What does he say? Asked Mother. Dutifully I translated. Impertinent man, said Mother indignantly. Really, I could smack Margot. Tell him who I am, Jerry. I told the Turk, and the effect on him was more than Mother could have wished. With a roar, he leapt to his feet, rushed across to her, seized her hands and covered them with kisses. Then, still holding her hands in a vice-like grip, he peered into her face, his moustache trembling. The mother, he intoned, the mother of my almond blossom. What's he say? Asked Mother, tremulously. But before I could translate, the Turk had barked out an order to his wives, who showed their first sign of animation. They leapt from their cushions, rushed to Mother, lifted their yashmaks, and kissed her hands with every symptom of veneration. I do wish they wouldn't keep kissing me, gasped Mother. Jerry, tell them it's quite unnecessary. But the Turk, having got his wives re-established on their cushions, turned once again to Mother. He threw a powerful arm around her shoulders, making her squeak, and threw out his other arm oratorically. Never did I think, he boomed, peering into Mother's face. Never did I think that I should have the honour of meeting the mother of my almond blossom. What's he saying? Asked Mother agitatedly, trapped in the Turk's bear-like hug. Again I translated. Almond Blossom? What's he talking about? The man's mad, she said. I explained that the Turk was apparently greatly enamoured of Margot, and that this was his name for her. This confirmed Mother's worst fears about the Turk's intentions. Almond Blossom indeed, she said indignantly. Just wait until she gets back. I'll give her Almond Blossom. Just at that moment, cool and fresh from a swim, Margot herself appeared in a very revealing bathing costume. Oh, she screamed delightedly. Mustafa and Lena and Maria and Tilina, how lovely. The Turk rushed across to her and kissed her hands reverently, while his wives clustered round making muffled noises of pleasure. Mother, this is Mustafa, said Margot, glowing. We have already met, said Mother grimly, and he's ruined my new dress, or rather his lamb has. Go and put some clothes on. His lamb? Asked Margot, bewildered. What lamb? The lamb he brought for his Almond Blossom, as he calls you, said Mother accusingly. Oh, it's just a nickname, said Margot, colouring. It doesn't mean any harm. I know what these dirty old men are, said Mother, ominously. Really, Margot, you should know better. The old Turk was listening to this exchange with quick glances from his bright eyes and a beatific smile on his face. However, I could see that my powers of translation would be stretched to their limit if Mother and Margot started arguing, so I opened the sliding doors and let the lamb in. He came in pertly, prance-footed, black and curly as a storm cloud. How dare you, said Margot. How dare you insult my friends? He's not a dirty old man. He's one of the cleanest old men I know. I don't care whether he's clean or not, said Mother, coming to the end of her patience. He can't stay here with all his women. I'm not cooking for a harem. It's wonderful to hear the mother and daughter talk together, the Turk confided to me. It's like the sound of sheep bells. You're beastly, said Margot. You're beastly. You don't want me to have any friends. You're narrow-minded and suburban. You can't call it suburban to object to 3 wives, said the mother indignantly. It reminds me, said the Turk, his eyes moist, of the singing of the nightingales in my valley. He can't help it if he's a Turk, shrilled Margot. He can't help it if he's got to have 3 wives. Any man can avoid having 3 wives if he puts his mind to it, said Mother firmly. I expect, said the Turk confidingly, Almond Blossom is telling her mother what a happy time we had in my valley, huh? You're always trying to repress me, said Margot. Everything I do is wrong. The trouble is, I give you too much license. I let you go away for a few days, and you come back with this old roué and his dancing girls, said Mother. There you are. That's what I mean. You repress me, said Margot triumphantly. Now you expect me to have a license for a Turk. How I would like to take them back to my village, said the Turk, gazing at them fondly. Such wonderful time we would have, dancing, singing, wine. The lambs seemed disappointed that no one was taking any notice of him. He had gambolled a bit, decorated the floor, and done 2 nicely executed pirouettes. But he felt that no one was paying him the attention he deserved. So he put down his head and charged Mother. It was a beautifully executed charge. I could speak with some authority, for during my expeditions through the surrounding olive groves, I had frequently met with eager and audacious young rams and fought them matador fashion, using my shirt as a cloak to our mutual satisfaction. While deploring the result, I had to confess that the charge was excellent, well thought out as it was, and with the full power of the ram's wiry body and bony head landing with precision on the back of Mother's knees. Mother was projected onto our extremely uncomfortable horsehair sofa as if propelled by a cannon. She lay there gasping. The Turk, horrified at what his gift had done, leapt in front of her, arms outstretched to protect her from further attack, which seemed imminent, for the ram, pleased with itself, had retreated to a corner of the room and was prancing and bucking rather in the manner of a boxer limbering up in his corner of the ring. "Mother! Mother! Are you all right?" screamed Margot. Mother was too breathless to answer her. "Aha! You see, he has spirit like me, Almond Blossom," cried the Turk. "Come on then, my brave one, come on." The ram accepted the invitation with a speed and suddenness that took the Turk by surprise. It moved across the room in a black blur, its feet machine gunning on the scrubbed boards, hit the Turk on his shins with a crack, and precipitated him onto the sofa with Mother, where he lay uttering loud cries of rage and pain. I had been charged in the shins like that, so I could sympathise. The Turks, 3 wives, aghast at their master's downfall, were standing immobile, uttering noises like 3 minarets at sundown. It was into this interesting situation that Larry and Leslie intruded. They stood riveted in the doorway, drinking in the scene with unbelieving eyes. There was I, pursuing a recalcitrant lamb round the room, Margot comforting 3 ululating ladies in veils, and Mother apparently rolling around on the sofa with an elderly Turk. "Mother, don't you think you're getting a little old for this sort of thing?" Larry asked with interest. "By Jove, look at that marvellous dagger," said Leslie, eyeing the still writhing Turk with interest. "Don't be stupid, Larry," said Mother angrily. massaging the backs of her legs. "It's all Margot's Turk's fault." "You can't trust Turks," said Leslie, still eyeing the dagger. "Spiro says so." "Oh, but what are you doing, rolling about with a Turk at this hour?" Larry inquired. "Practicing to be Lady Hester Stanhope?" "Now, Larry, I've had quite enough this afternoon. Stop making me angry. The sooner this man is out of here, the better I'll be pleased," said Mother. "Kindly ask him to go." You can't. He's my Turk," squeaked Margot tearfully. "You can't treat my Turk like that." "I'm going upstairs to put some witch hazel on my bruises," said Mother, hobbling towards the door. She really needs arnica, not witch hazel. Witch hazel is a toner you put on your face. Well, I do when I put on makeup, people of Earth. But anyway, however it works, who am I to judge? One woman's witch hazel for bruises is another woman's arnica for bruises. "Anyway," said Mother, hobbling towards the door, "and I want that man out of here by the time I come down." "What are you doing, handsome boys? Chewing on your own beaks in contentment and happiness. You're the beautiful birdie boys." You don't really do much during the day. It gets terribly exciting at sunset, but only for the last 2 nights. Hopefully they'll settle down tonight. Little Bobo baby. By the time she had returned, both Larry and Leslie had struck up a firm friendship with the Turk, and to Mother's annoyance, he and his wife stayed on for several hours, imbibing gallons of sweet tea and biscuits before we could finally manage to get them into a carrocino and back to town. "Well, thank heaven that's over," said Mother, limping towards the dining room for our evening meal. "At least they're not staying here, and that's one mercy. But really, Margot, you should be careful who you invite. Well, you don't expect someone to bring a bucking, bronking, bloody black ram with them, do you? It's not completely her fault." "I'm sick of the way you criticise my friend," said Margot. "He's a perfectly ordinary, harmless Turk." "He would have made a charming son-in-law, don't you think?" asked Larry. "Margot could have called the first son Ali Baba and the daughter Sesame." "Don't joke like that, Larry dear," said Mother. "I'm not joking," said Larry. "The old boy told me his wives were getting a bit long in the tooth, and that he rather fancied Margot as number 4. "Larry, he didn't. Disgusting old brute," said Mother. "It's a good thing he didn't say that to me. I'd have given him a piece of my mind. What did you say?" "He was rather put off when I told him what Margot's dowry was," said Larry. "Dowry? What dowry?" asked Mother, mystified. 11 unweaned puppies," explained Larry. And thus concludes chapter 1. dogs, dormice, and disorder. And very disordered it was indeed. And tomorrow I shall come back with chapter 2, which is probably just as long. Potentially a one video chapter, but we'll see. Ghosts and spiders. Take heed of the foul fiend. Shakespeare, King Lear. Indeed, one should always take heed of the foul fiends, and the fake and false friends, and the misbegotten cares of fake lovers. Take heed and avoid at all costs. It's a question not just of body, mind and spirit, but of soul, people of earth. In spite of my deep grief and chagrin, have a beautiful day wherever you are in the space-time continuum, and remember to always take the weather with you, but leave the rambunctious rams at home, people of earth. Bye for now.